Don't settle for a logistics-only marriage. Are you ready to transform your marriage to have deeper closeness and connection? Learn more at intimacymastery.com.
From Naples, Florida, this is a One Extraordinary Marriage Show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DiLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the Hug Hotline at 858-876-5663 or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In this episode, we're talking about a journey filled with extraordinary connections, individual growth, and amazing moments.
And there's a quote from Amelia Barr that says this: "The great difference between voyages rests not with the ships, but with the people you meet on them." Mm-hmm. And as we talk about today's episode in Extraordinary Connections, I think that is going to be woven throughout our time together. But first, we start every episode with a hug. A hug is an opportunity to celebrate where you've been, what you've done, and the changes that you've actually experienced in your marriage. And this hug comes from an email that we received from one of the couples who recently attended this year's 6 Pillars at Sea marriage getaway. Tony and Elisa, I can't tell you the amount of fun and connection we had this week. Between the sun, the fun, and all the great conversations from different couples. Because of you, we feel we have several new friends and mentors for life. I have learned in the past to give what we call the gift we see in you are. On the podcast, you call it a hug. So I want to give you both gifts that we have experienced and truly see as a gift from God, and gifts that we have received and benefited from. Vulnerability from both of you. Because of it, we know that we are not alone. Mentoring from both of you and how you see the potential in all people. Humor. Tony, you crack us up and show how different personalities are valuable in marriage. Love. Elisa, the way you protect those around you like a mother hen. Patience. From both of you for slowing down and diving deeper into the issues because you see couples produce fruit like we did, even if it takes 3 years. So kind. Beyond comprehension. Always giving more than what is expected. Great listeners without judgment, because you modeled the path by working out your own issues to share. Joyful, always celebrating and seeing the good that God has created. Thanks again for a fantastic week and an extraordinary marriage moving forward. We love you guys.
Oh, I love that. I love that one. In so many pieces, and wow, the friendships made.
Absolutely. And just, I read those attributes that were given to us, and really I think that's just a sign of truly with who and what the one family is, right? Because I saw so many of those attributes and so many of the people that traveled with us. And for those of you that heard leading up to the 6 Pillars at Sea marriage getaway that it was going to be our last trip for the foreseeable future, well, we had so much fun and saw so much community bonding that it's not going to be the last trip. We don't currently have one scheduled.
I was just going to say, those on this most recent 6 Pillars at Sea marriage getaway, you need to give them a big clap, even if you don't know them.
Yes.
Because it's truly those couples who, they didn't really talk us into doing another one, but they were very adamant, very supportive, encouraging of like, we want this. We want to do this. And for those of you who've been on a marriage getaway with us or haven't, I'm just going to say this right now. Put it down on your bucket list. Put it down on your bucket list. We see so many things happen on these marriage getaways that I am so glad that those who attended were encouraging us to go to look at doing it again. So just as an FYI, I've already reached out to our meeting planner, and I have not heard back from her as of this recording just yet, but we'll start getting this going, and we're going to do it again because being on that ship, being on that cruise, it was truly amazing.
Absolutely. And as we begin to prepare, we're, like Tony said, awaiting information from our meeting planner. I just want you to know that Intimacy Mastery members are going to be the first to know and be able to register for that trip when it gets all put together. And so if you're curious about Intimacy Mastery, you can learn more and even join today at intimacymastery.com. Use promo code podcast to try your first month for only $1. And so as as has probably already been guessed by all of you listening, we are back from the 6 Pillars at Sea Marriage Getaway, and it truly was the most extraordinary week. I have to say, it was also Tony and I. It was our first cruise, so that's kind of interesting when you're leading an event and it's the first time that you've been on a boat, a ship,
of that
freedom
size.
of the seas.
Yes.
And so you're it's a little bit of a test, right? Like, how are we going to do? Are we going to, is seasickness going to be a thing? How are we going to feel about going from port to port? All of these different things. And I have to say, it was absolutely the most extraordinary experience. The memories that will come from this trip, when you bring 20 couples together. I was doing some of the math.
23 of us.
Well, there were 20 plus couples.
Yeah.
So 23 couples, just so we're exact for Tony. We had couples married anywhere from 5 years to 50 years. So we had hundreds of years of marriage represented in that room. We had 19 states represented. I had to go through and double check.
Wow, we had 19 states.
19 states.
Oh, wow.
We had couples with little ones, like, one breastfeeding mama, all the way to those with, adult children and grandchildren that they were going to be visiting on the backside. We had couples that didn't have kids, couples that hadn't had kids yet. Like, we have all of this stuff in this room. We were in the Oliver Twist Lounge.
Can I also even say this?
Yes.
We had marriages who one was an extrovert, one was an introvert.
Yes, we did.
We had couples and individuals who were more laid back, quiet, and more who were boisterous and wanted to share. And I find it so amazing how everybody and all personalities were heard, were seen, were able to experience something so memorable. And I've been getting a number of text messages and voice messages from folks just saying, this was better than our honeymoon. Mm-hmm. This was one of the best vacations we've ever taken. And I don't take that lightly. I mean, that's huge and something that I'm so excited about. But just all the different individuals, the personalities, and how we were all able to still come together and have such an amazing time together.
Well, and I just want to, if y'all can just picture a map of the United States for a second, we literally had couples from Alaska to Florida, from Vermont to California. So just think about that. You literally
Wow.
all 4 corners. We just didn't get far enough west to pick up anybody from Hawaii. But literally all across the United States, we had couples represented. And, it's really interesting because when you bring together a group of people, some of whom know each other because they've traveled with us previously, some who, met for the first time at the meet and greet the night before we all got on the ship, some who met for the first time at the reception that we had. Our entire event over the course of the week was held in the Olive or Twist Lounge, which was on the 14th deck. So we spent, every time we were in session, we literally could look out at the ocean, the ship, everything. It was like the most epic room to have an event in because the visual variety, all of the different, we're at sea. Oh, look, there's another cruise ship, all of these different types of things. But it was also a space that was so well set up for couples to be able to talk to one another, like their spouses, but also to be able to share because we weren't in a conference room style. We weren't in a conference room at all. And so having that space that actually made it feel like almost like a living room, like a lounge, right? Where it was just, we took away some of those barriers of, well, we're just sitting at a desk and this is what it's going to be. And, getting into this place of sharing and vulnerability. The hug acknowledged Tony and mine, our vulnerability, but really what happens in a room like that when you've got that many couples is that everybody gets real and everybody gets vulnerable. And that can be something where, when you're coming into the ship, and let me tell you, our couples, the day that they were trying to get to Florida for
the Saturday before we were leaving port
was like crazy weather Saturday across the United States.
It was one of the worst days for everybody to be traveling because we had couples waking up to their flights being canceled, having to be rerouted. Everybody was coming into Fort Lauderdale. So one of the beautiful parts of this too, and we set this marriage getaway cruise up before Elise and I had moved to Florida. But for us, it's awesome because we live on the west side. We live from door to door. Like our door to the port is an hour and 45 minutes. Call it 2 hours with a bathroom break for my beautiful wife, Elisa.
Hello.
What?
Hello. Mr. Can I get a large unsweet iced tea, please?
And then I do a refill too. I was just giving her a hard time.
Yeah, you were just giving because the bathroom break's usually for Tony.
Yeah, but for us, it's it's a drive across, which is wonderful. But for so many of our folks coming in, those in the one family, I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, we're late. We're not going to make the meet and greet. We're this, we're that. We hope we're going to get here. We got rerouted to Miami. We got rerouted to
What's
Palm Beach, West Palm, somewhere
north of Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, by like 50 minutes. Coming in late, it was everything you could imagine for our folks getting here, which creates some stress for us, a lot of stress for them.
Because think about it, guys, right? You know what it's like traveling with your spouse when your travel plans go awry. You know the stress that comes with it. You know, oh my gosh, we're going on this marriage getaway. This is supposed to be great. This is going to be a wonderful time for us. And the next thing you know, you're like, okay, and we're going to spend 8 hours just sitting in an airport hoping that we get out and hoping that we can get there. And it's not just the stress of travel that so many of our couples had to face. You know, as we got to know their stories over the course of the week, we were hearing about challenges that marriages were facing, whether it was due to, work or schedules or raising kids or other obligations. And it's so easy, whether we're sitting on a cruise ship or, trying to get there, just living our lives, it's so easy to get into your own marriage bubble and just be focused on the challenges, the problems, and what's wrong with your marriage or your spouse. But when you come together in a community, and I said this, I think it was probably the very first session, there is something special about when the one family gathers. Mm-hmm. There is something special about knowing that regardless of where a couple is when they come in, there is a desire to have an extraordinary marriage. Mm-hmm. They might not be there now. They might be dealing with something. It might have been a crazy travel day or, missing the kiddos or whatever it might be. But you step into that room and you see 45 other people, because there were 46 of us, those 23 couples Tony talked about. And you go, we all have the same goal. We all have the same desire for this relationship with the one that we love. And it might not be perfect now, but as these couples started to connect, and I mean, one of the things I think you and I both loved about the cruise ship is that there were so many places for couples to connect.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There are so many places. There was, for those of you who've cruised, and many of you have shared with us, for us not having done it, we didn't realize it. But you had shared with us, there's so much going on the ship mm-hmm. that, and you're contained. You're like this small town floating on the water, but it's so amazing that there are so many little places to get away, mm-hmm. to just, hey, on a deck, it could be inside, it could be outside. I mean, at one point in time after dinner, one night on the dining room, we were on the fourth deck. Elise and I just popped out onto the deck and we went towards the rear of the ship, and there was nobody there.
Nobody.
And we got these fantastic sunset photos. There was one couple who took some photos, but we didn't see anybody. There was just deck chairs mm-hmm. where people could just sit and be alone. There are lounges you could go to. There's the library. We told a number of the couples, hey, if you just want to get away and just get some quiet, you go to the library. There was just so much to do. Lisa and I were floored.
Well, because, the cruise ships give you all of the activities heading into it. And so we kind of made our this would be fun to do. I think we did 3 things on our list of this would be fun to do.
Yeah.
But what was so neat about the dynamic with these couples and having so much to do is that you would see, one night we walked into the coffee shop, the cafe area, and there's 4 couples playing cards.
Yep.
And then we would come down and, kind of walk the main promenade, and there'd be, a group of 4 or 5 husbands having coffee together in the morning. And then we'd hear about, a few wives having a conversation on one of the decks. And then we found the piano bar, Schooners, and that turned out to be the place where every night groups of us were gathering and kind of taking over the place. Not going to lie. We did kind of take
the last night. We definitely took it over.
Yeah. I think, what did I count? 14 couples?
I think 14 couples were there. So there's about 28 of us in this bar area, which is really small, but it's a piano bar. And Tammy Ying, who knows something like 1,000 songs. She is funny as all get out. And it's sing along. And it's one of those things that bonds people together. Friendships are formed. Laughter is shared. Moments of like even tears and like conversations are happening maybe just to the side because there's another couple there that you want to talk to. Dancing was
a big part of this trip.
Dancing was a big part of this trip in so many ways. And so it was just a wonderful place. And where you can, and not just here on the cruise, but think about how you can be making space for extraordinary connections throughout your life.
Absolutely. And it's such a place of choice and connection. And we want to talk about really what that looks like after this break. These days, it feels like the world and our lives are moving at hyperspeed. And sometimes being in the car can feel like one more place where you're rushing. The all-new Nissan Murano is an unapologetic refuge amidst the daily hustle and bustle. A place where you can take a beat to catch your breath and re-energize. Some of my favorite features are the massaging leather-appointed seats to help melt away the tension of a busy day, and the expansive panoramic moonroof that adds tons of natural light to the roomy cabin. Massage and moonroof, sign me up. Plus, the Bose premium sound system will help you escape into your favorite music. We've owned many Nissans over the years, and we love it when we fly into a new city for a speaking event and find that our rental car is going to be the Nissan Murano. We know we're going to have a great ride, and the car is going to be a place where we can chill and relax. Nissan's history has been one of innovation without reservation and a willingness to do what others don't dare to do. It's your turn to see what it's all about. To check out the all-new Nissan Murano, visit your local Nissan dealer or visit nissanusa.com.
Panoramic moonroof, Bose premium sound system, massaging leather-appointed seats are optional features.
We've all set health goals. Lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, they often fade. That's where Prolon comes in. Its 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now they're upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. We're so excited to experience Prolon Next Gen and see results for ourselves. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering One Extraordinary Marriage Show listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/marriage. That's PROLONLIFE.com/marriage to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/marriage. We're back. And we're talking about being in this place of extraordinary connections. And, I want to share that, over the course of the week, we started hearing phrases like, I'm not necessarily comfortable sharing, right? Like there was still this kind of like, I feel uncomfortable, but I feel like this is a safe space to be able to share.
And I want to just say something here. Prior to going on the cruise, and I shared this with everybody because prior to going on the cruise, Elisa looked at me. Many of you know this. I'm going to just say this. We did a sex challenge last month.
Oh, yes.
Really good. 8 out of 8. Cool. We're about to go on this trip. We had sex, I think, the night before we were leaving. So probably like a Friday night. We were leaving on Saturday. No.
I'm trying to figure out where you're going.
I'm just sharing. Create a dedicated space for sharing, right? And I looked at Elisa and I was just like, no, I'm not doing a sex challenge on this ship. I'm just not doing it on this cruise. We got a lot on our plate. Just so you guys know, like when we go on an event like this, our minds are on you. Like we're doing stuff, but a lot of time is for Elisa and I, and we'll stow away and we'll get our time. But I remember during one session we were just talking about it, and I was just like, hey, like. I'm not going to do this, Elisa. Like, I'm so thankful.
It was absolutely the right answer. Nobody get upset at Tony. It was the right answer.
I was so thankful she wanted to do it. But I was just like, there's no way we're going to make this happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we hear phrases like that, and even for Tony to feel safe enough to admit that, I don't want to do the sex challenge this week. It's not, the timing isn't going to work out. Other comments, like Tony mentioned, a few people said the trip was better than their honeymoon. People talked about the fact that they have made lifelong friends with people that were strangers, at the beginning of the trip. Another couple said the questions and exercises allowed us to bring up topics that we've been stuffing down for a long time. One of the husbands during our final session said, I'm asking the men in this group to hold me accountable to the changes I want to make. A wife said, I've learned that while I've been asking my husband to meet my needs, I realize that I'm uncomfortable meeting his needs. I've got some work to do. Mm-hmm. And those were insights. Like, I got to tell you, they don't happen in your day to day. They don't happen when you're running from here to there or whatever. It happens when you get out of this marriage bubble and you make time and space for those conversations to happen, for the distractions to take a back seat, or even to be silenced, and for the focus to be solely on your marriage, and to actually allow others to speak into your relationship. Like seeing all of these couples in different conversations and things like that, where, couples that have been married 40 years sitting with a couple that's been married 4 years, all of this different kind of stuff. Like, that's where the magic happens. And I think about like what we took away from this week at sea. And, first of all, is creating that dedicated marriage space, right? It's not always going to be a vacation. But one couple shared with us that every Tuesday, they sit down and that is their date night. And it's not a like go out and have dinner and go to the movies date night. It is, we are going to be focused completely on our marriage tonight, whether we're listening to a podcast or reading a book or playing a game that doesn't involve electronics and things like that. Like, they have dedicated that space weekly for their marriage. And it was a lesson, I think, to so many of us about that.
Yeah. And there was even one couple who had shared, like, they had been diligent with their coffee break and it had faltered. Mm-hmm. It just sort of like went by the wayside. And there was this realization of like, we haven't done that in a long time.
Yep.
And them just noticing how much having a coffee break impacted their lives and their marriage. Mm-hmm. And if you'd like to get our newest and updated coffee break, come join us in Intimacy Mastery. You can check us out at intimacymastery.com. And as Lisa shared, you can get going for $1 for the first month when you enter podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second thing that we saw so much of this past week, and it was even mentioned in the hug, is this idea of practicing vulnerability, right? Stepping out of your comfort zone, out of that place at the surface. I used a lot of cruise ship analogies, a lot of boating analogies. People were probably tired, ready to throw me overboard by the end. But this place of vulnerability, you glide across the ocean when you're going that fast and you're out to sea, and it's absolutely beautiful. And we had wonderful weather. So I know it's not always like this. If you're not sure about how crazy it can get, ask Tony to send you the video of the Drake Passage.
Or just look up Drake Passage on YouTube. It happened, about a month ago.
So the ocean can look perfectly still, but there's so much going on underneath. There are currents, there's fish moving, there's seaweed that you might step on and feel all slimy, all of these different kinds of things, but you don't know until you go deeper. And the same thing is true when we're sitting having these conversations, when we're getting to meet people. Like, there's so much going on beyond the surface, but will you step into this place where you're willing to go deeper, where you will step in and say, yeah, here's who I am. Kind of ugly, messed up, broken, all of the things that we say or think inside of us. And will you share it with others so that they can say, hey, you know what? I've got those uglies too. I've got those broken pieces too. It's being in this place where, we live in a very superficial, surface level world. That's what social media is. It's all the perfection. It's all of the good parts. But when you dig deeper and when you develop the ability to be vulnerable with others, it is amazing the depth and quality of the relationships that you have, because people truly know who you are.
Yeah. Vulnerability, we talk a lot around this word, and I just want to share something around it. Vulnerability is the extent at which you share, knowing you are giving information to someone where they could take that information and harm you with it. Mm-hmm. That's vulnerability. And so transparency is a little different than vulnerability. Vulnerability is actually the deeper of the two. And so just understand when we're saying this, in this environment, it is amazing, you, the one family. And Elise and I have been in many events, in many different environments and spaces where you, the one family, get vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Like you are sharing information that somebody could use to harm you. Here's the beautiful thing in the one family, because we have a culture here. Nobody would ever do that. Mm-hmm. Nobody would ever do that. Because those in the one family they care for one another. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't use that against you. And I share this because in your marriage, your spouse may be getting vulnerable with you and you've used it against them. And that has created friction, resistance, defensiveness. And you're trying to get it back out of your spouse. And you may need to look at yourself and go, oh, I've hurt them because I've used it against them. And so I just want to share that because I think it's something that right now, and we've used it many a times, and I feel like just more recently, it's just been thrown around a lot more and more and more, like get vulnerable. Well, what does that mean? And how do we do that? And when you bring 23 couples together who have mainly, most of them have never met one another, there are a number who are doing the second, third trip with us, but they're still meeting new people and they're in a new room with new people. What does that look like? Mm-hmm. And there's something special about the one family that I have talked to many other folks who run events, who put things together, and I share how you open up, how you are vulnerable with one another, how you're willing to speak into this. And they're in awe. They're amazed. But it's because of you and because of others knowing that we would never use this against you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's a culture we have in our marriage as well, right? It's a place where, we don't weaponize the vulnerabilities.
That's a good word, weaponized. Yes, I love it.
It's held in a place where you process the feelings that go with it. And ultimately, that steps into, or that takes you into a place where, you make a conscious decision to step outside your marriage bubble, right? It's so easy. I mean, Tony and I have been married 28, going on 29 years later this year as we record this episode. And I will tell you, there have been many seasons in our marriage where we have lived in a bubble where it has just been like Tony and I against the world. And that often turns into Tony and I against each other when you're in that bubble. It's thinking that, oh my gosh, nobody else is going through stuff like I am. Nobody else understands. Nobody else could possibly relate to what we're going through. And it's crazy to me because it happens every year when we take a trip with the one family. I shouldn't be surprised. I am. Just how much connection and how much transformation happens when you connect with couples who have been in similar stages, maybe are in a similar season right now. It's like I told one couple, one of the younger married couples, the wife said, well, what is one piece, we were just having coffee with them, and she's like, what is one piece of advice that you would give us? And I said, y'all need to find mentors who are like 10, 15 years ahead of you. Because it's so easy. And it doesn't matter, if you're a 35-year-old married couple with 2 kids or a 50-year-old married couple with college kids or, a couple in your 60s or 70s. It's so easy, you guys, to stay in your bubble and only hang out with people that are your age. Mm-hmm. But the magic comes when you interact and your lives intersect with couples that have been married fewer years than you, couples that have been married more years than you, couples that have gone through the same thing, they just handled it differently, and you get to pick their brain. It's stepping into this place where connection is allowed to happen and you get out of the isolation. And that's what happens when you voyage together. And it might be something, I know we've mentioned it a couple of times in this episode already, but that's what's happening now in intimacy mastery, right? You see these couples in all different ages and stages coming together, kind of like they did on the ship, But in this place of what is the continuity, what does it look like to do this every month? What does it look like to be able to have these conversations in the chat and that type of thing? Because we were never meant to do marriage by ourselves.
Yeah. And with that, again, I'm going to just say, we're going to be doing another marriage getaway. And we'd love for you to join us. And as I shared with everybody on the ship and on this cruise, the first to know, and my goal is, and I'm letting you all know this right now, my goal is we sell this thing out to our Intimacy Mastery members first and foremost. Like, it never sees the light of day beyond that. And so we would highly, highly, highly suggest that you come join us in there. Go to intimacymastery.com, pick that monthly option, use the code podcast, and get the first month for $1. Come check it out. We'd love to have you in there. But more importantly, we want to form these connections now. So when we get on our next marriage getaway, people already know one another. Mm-hmm. It's even quicker. Like, there is no like, oh, who are you? How do I get to know you? Like, we already know one another, and we're already stepping into what's going to be one of the most fantastic marriage getaways we could possibly go on. We love it. We've enjoyed them. We've enjoyed those of you who've gone on other marriage getaways, not just this one, previous ones with us. You truly all have been a joy. You encourage us. We get to sit back and we get to watch friendships made, breakthroughs happen, and even for us, make friends who are you, the one family. So come join us in Intimacy Mastery. And that gives you that opportunity to join us on the next marriage getaway. You guys have yourselves a fantastic week. We're excited for all that's ahead as you make space for those extraordinary connections in your life. Enjoy your week. We'll catch you next week. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. If you love this podcast, please leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening. Your review helps others find the show and know that it's the right fit for them and their marriage.